I built my engineering firm from the ground up 42 years ago. Last month, I sold it for $83 million. 2 weeks after the sale closed, I walked into my own kitchen and heard my daughter-in-law tell my son that my wife's wheelchair was ruining the aesthetic of their new penthouse, and that maybe it was time we considered other living arrangements. My wife Linda didn't hear it. She was in the garden, the one place she still felt free despite being confined to that chair for the past 27 years. But I heard every word through the open patio door, and something inside me went cold. Let me back up. My name is Michael Brennan. I'm 68 years old now, though most days I feel about 90. Not from age, but from carrying the weight of watching my wife suffer for nearly 3 decades, while never once complaining, never once asking why this happened to her. Linda and I met in college. She was studying architecture, I was in engineering. We were the couple everyone said would make it, and we did. We got married the summer after graduation, bought a small house in Portland, and started building our life together. I founded Brennan Engineering Solutions when I was 26. Linda worked alongside me those first years, designing our office space, helping with proposals, balancing books. We were partners in every sense of the word. When our son Daniel was born, Linda took some time off, but she never stopped being part of the business. She had this gift for seeing the big picture, for understanding what clients really needed, even when they couldn't articulate it themselves. Many of our biggest contracts came because Linda sat in on meetings and asked the right questions. Daniel was 10 years old when it happened, March 15, 1997. I remember the date because it's burned into my brain like a brand. I was at a job site that morning, dealing with a concrete supplier who delivered the wrong specifications. My phone rang around 8:30, unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mr. Brennan?" A woman's voice, professional but urgent. "This is Providence Hospital. Your wife and son were brought in by ambulance about 20 minutes ago. There was an accident." The job site disappeared. The concrete, the supplier, everything just vanished. All I could hear was my own heartbeat and that woman's voice saying, "Accident." I don't remember the drive to the hospital. I must have told someone I was leaving, must have gotten in my truck, must have navigated traffic, but I have no memory of it. The next thing I clearly recall is running through the emergency room doors and seeing a nurse immediately approach me. "Mr. Brennan, your son is stable. He has a broken arm and some bruising, but he's going to be fine. Your wife is in surgery." What happened? The nurse led me to a small waiting room. From what witnesses told the paramedics, your wife was walking your son to his school bus stop. A delivery truck ran the red light at the intersection. Your wife pushed your son out of the way. She took the full impact. I sat down because my legs wouldn't hold me anymore. The truck hit her at approximately 40 miles per hour. The nurse continued, her voice gentle but clinical. "She has severe spinal trauma, multiple fractures, internal bleeding. Dr. James Chen is the best spinal surgeon in the Pacific Northwest. He's operating on her now." 6 hours. That's how long I sat in that waiting room while a surgeon I'd never met tried to save my wife's life. Daniel was in a room upstairs, his arms set and casted, asking for his mother. The hospital staff brought him down in a wheelchair even though he could walk. I think they were trying to be kind, but seeing my 10-year-old son in that chair, asking me over and over when Mom would come back, nearly broke me. Around 3 in the afternoon, a man in surgical scrubs walked into the waiting room. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were clear and focused. "Mr. Brennan, I'm Dr. Chen. Your wife is out of surgery and stable." I stood up. "Will she walk again?" The directness of my question seemed to startle him, but he didn't look away. The damage to her spinal cord was severe. We did everything we could to preserve nerve function, but the trauma was extensive. It's too early to know the full extent, but you should prepare yourself for the possibility that she may have permanent mobility limitations. "Permanent," I repeated. The word felt like lead on my tongue. "We won't know for certain until the swelling goes down and we can do more comprehensive testing. But Mr. Brennan, your wife is alive. From what the paramedics described, she shouldn't be. The force of that impact, the angle of the collision, most people wouldn't have survived the scene. Your wife is a fighter." He was right about that. Linda has always been a fighter. Over the next 2 weeks, as Linda recovered in the ICU, the full picture became clear. The truck had shattered her pelvis, fractured her spine in 3 places, and caused severe damage to her spinal cord at the L1 level. She would never walk again. Dr. Chen was the one who told us, and I'll never forget the way Linda took the news. We were in her hospital room. She'd been moved out of ICU 2 days earlier. Daniel was at home with my sister. It was just the three of us, me, Linda, and this surgeon who'd saved her life. "I can't feel my legs," Linda said before Dr. Chen could begin his prepared speech. "I've known since I woke up. I just wanted to give it a few days before making it real." "Mrs. Brennan, doctor," Chen said, pulling a chair close to her bed. "You saved your son's life. The witnesses were very clear about what they saw. You didn't hesitate. You didn't freeze. You saw that truck and you moved. Daniel is alive because of what you did." "And I'm in a wheelchair because of what I did," Linda said. "Not bitter, just factual." "Yes," Dr. Chen said, "and I hope that one day you'll see that as a badge of honor rather than a tragedy." Linda looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, "I'd do it again. Every time. I'd take the hit every time to save my son. That's who my wife is. That's who she's always been." The next months were brutal. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, home modifications, learning how to navigate a world built for walking bodies when you have wheels instead of legs. Linda threw herself into recovery with the same determination she'd brought to everything else in her life. She learned to transfer from bed to chair, chair to car, chair to shower seat. She mastered the ramps we installed throughout our house. She figured out how to cook from a seated position, how to do laundry, how to drive with hand controls. And she never, not once, said it wasn't fair. She never asked why it had to be her. She just adapted and moved forward. Daniel struggled more than Linda did, honestly. He was old enough to understand that his mother had been hurt saving him, but too young to process the guilt that came with that knowledge. For years, he had nightmares about the accident. Linda would wheel herself into his room and sit beside his bed until he fell back asleep, singing the same lullabies she'd sung when he was a baby. As Daniel got older, something shifted. The guilt transformed into something else. Embarrassment, maybe. Shame. He started asking Linda not to come to his school events in her wheelchair. Said the other kids stared. Said it made him feel weird. Linda handled it with grace, as she handled everything. She'd smile and say she understood, and then she'd stay home. I went to Daniel's basketball games, his science fairs, his band concerts. Linda stayed home and pretended it didn't hurt. I should have said something then. I should have made Daniel understand what his mother had sacrificed, but Linda asked me not to. "He's just a teenager," she'd say. "He'll grow out of it. This is normal adolescent stuff. Don't make it bigger than it is." But it was bigger than that. I see that now. Daniel went to college, then business school, got his MBA from Wharton, landed a job at a top investment bank in Seattle, started making the kind of money that turns heads at dinner parties. And somewhere along the way, the embarrassment became something more permanent. He visited less, called less, always had an excuse why he couldn't come home for holidays. Then 3 years ago, he called to tell us he'd met someone. Ashley Reynolds, he said. Corporate attorney. Brilliant, beautiful, ambitious. They were serious. "I'd like to bring her to meet you both," Daniel said. "Maybe in a few months. Her schedule is pretty packed right now." A few months turned into 6 months, then a year. We finally met Ashley via video call. She was polished, professional, said all the right things. But there was something about the way her eyes kept drifting to Linda's wheelchair in the background of our screen. Something about the slight tightening around her mouth that made me uneasy. They got married 2 years ago. Small ceremony, they said. Just immediate family. But when we arrived at the courthouse where they'd planned the civil ceremony, we found out that immediate family meant just parents. And Ashley's father wasn't there. "He couldn't make it," Ashley said with a bright smile. "Emergency surgery. He's a doctor, so his schedule is unpredictable. But he sends his love." I thought it was odd at the time, but Linda was so happy to see Daniel getting married that I let it go. We took photos on the courthouse steps. Linda looked beautiful in her navy dress, sitting tall in her chair. Daniel looked uncomfortable, standing slightly to the side, as if he wanted to crop the wheelchair out of the frame. After the wedding, Daniel and Ashley moved into a condo downtown. Never invited us over, always suggested we meet at restaurants instead. Linda pretended not to notice, but I saw the hurt in her eyes every time Daniel made another excuse. Last month, after I sold my company, Daniel finally invited us to dinner at their new place. They'd just bought a penthouse in one of Seattle's most expensive buildings. Ashley had been talking about it for months, apparently. Daniel had mentioned it once or twice on our calls, always with this tone of pride mixed with something else. Anxiety, maybe. We should have known something was wrong when Daniel insisted on meeting us in the lobby rather than giving us their unit number to go straight up. "The elevator situation is complicated," he said when I asked. "Easier if I just bring you up myself." The building was beautiful, all glass and steel and modern architecture that Linda would have loved to design if she'd stayed in the field. Daniel led us to a private elevator, used a key card, and pressed the button for the 35th floor. When the doors opened directly into their apartment, I understood the real reason Daniel had met us downstairs. The place was stunning, all open concept and floor-to-ceiling windows with views of Puget Sound. It was also completely inaccessible. There was a step down into the living room. The doorways were narrow. The bathrooms were filled with expensive fixtures that would be impossible to use from a wheelchair. Ashley was waiting for us, champagne flutes in hand. "Welcome. Come in, come in." Linda's chair wouldn't fit over the step. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Daniel said, "Here, Mom, let me help you." And before I could stop him, he'd lifted Linda out of her chair and carried her to the sofa like she was a child. Linda's face went bright red. She hated being lifted, hated the loss of autonomy, the reminder that she couldn't move through spaces the way other people did. But she smiled and thanked Daniel, because that's who she is. I folded the wheelchair and brought it inside, parking it by the door like a piece of luggage. The dinner was awkward. Ashley talked about the penthouse, the neighborhood, the exclusive gym in the building. Daniel talked about his latest deals, the promotion he was expecting, his year-end bonus projections. Linda asked questions and smiled and pretended she wasn't trapped on that sofa, unable to move without assistance. I was helping Linda with her coat, preparing to leave, when I realized I'd left my phone in the kitchen. "I'll just be a second," I said, heading back through the living room. That's when I heard them, Daniel and Ashley, talking in low voices on the patio just beyond the open kitchen door. They didn't see me approach. "I told you this would be awkward," Ashley was saying. "Your mother can't even use the bathroom here. This is exactly why I said we shouldn't have them over." I know, Daniel replied. "But Dad just sold his company. They're going to expect us to include them and stuff now. He's got all this money and time." "Which brings me to my point," Ashley said. "Have you talked to them about senior living?" My hand froze on the counter. "What?" Daniel's voice was uncertain. "Senior living, assisted living, whatever you want to call it. Your mother needs more care than your father can provide at his age. And honestly, Daniel, it's not fair to you to have to worry about them all the time. There are really nice facilities now, gorgeous places with full medical staff." "Ashley, I don't think." "Just think about it. Your dad has the money now. They could afford the best care. And you and I could have a real relationship with them, visit them in a place that's actually accessible, instead of this dance we're doing where we pretend everything's normal." There was a long pause. Then Daniel said, "She wouldn't want to go?" "Then maybe your dad needs to make the decision. For her own good. She's only going to get older, more dependent. Better to transition her now while she can still adapt." I cleared my throat loudly and grabbed my phone from the counter. When I turned around, Ashley was smiling at me from the patio doorway as if we'd been discussing the weather. The ride home was quiet. Linda asked if I was feeling okay. I said I was just tired. I couldn't tell her what I'd heard. Not yet. I needed to think. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while Linda slept beside me. In 27 years, I'd never once regretted the modifications we'd made to our life. The ramps, the accessible van, the roll-in shower. Linda was my wife, my partner, the mother of my child. She'd sacrificed her mobility to save our son's life. The idea that our son now saw her as a burden, that his wife thought we should hide her away in some facility, made me physically ill. I didn't tell Linda what I'd overheard, but I started paying more attention. And once I knew what to look for, I saw the signs everywhere. Daniel's calls became more frequent, but the conversations had a new focus. He kept bringing up how we were managing. Was Dad still doing all the driving? Who helped Mom with grocery shopping? Had we thought about hiring home care assistants? Then came the brochures. They started arriving in our mail. Silver Springs Retirement Community, Cascade Senior Living, Evergreen Assisted Care. Beautiful places with names like vacation resorts and photos of smiling seniors in landscaped gardens. I threw them away without showing Linda, but they kept coming. 3 weeks after the dinner, Daniel called with a new proposal. Ashley's father is finally back from a medical conference. We'd love to have all of you over for dinner, a real family evening. What do you say? At your place? I asked. Actually, we were thinking of going to a restaurant. Easier for everyone. He paused. It would mean a lot to Ashley. She feels bad that you haven't met her father yet. I almost said no, but then I thought about Ashley's words on that patio, about senior living, and about how Daniel had just let her say those things. And I realized that Linda deserved to see exactly who her son had become. She deserved to understand why I was about to do what I was about to do. A restaurant sounds fine, I said. Text me the details. That afternoon, I called my attorney. James, I said, I need to restructure my estate plan. All of it, and I need it done quickly. What I set up was simple but effective. The bulk of my assets, including the proceeds from selling my company, would go into a trust. Linda would have full access for the rest of her life. After Linda's passing, Daniel would receive his inheritance only if he could demonstrate 5 consecutive years of consistent, active involvement in his mother's care. Not financial care, I specified. Physical presence, regular visits, active participation in her life. If Daniel couldn't or wouldn't meet those requirements, the assets would be distributed to charitable organizations focused on spinal cord injury research and accessibility advocacy. I had James draft everything while Linda was at her physical therapy appointments. The trust was established, the documents signed and notarized, all before she knew anything about it. Then I made a call to the restaurant Daniel had chosen. I need to make sure the space is fully accessible, I told the manager. My wife uses a wheelchair. I'll need your best table, something prominent with plenty of room. Of course, sir. And for your party size? 6 people. Make it 7 if you have a round table. I'm going to invite someone else to join us. Finding Dr. James Chen wasn't as hard as I'd expected. He was still practicing at Providence Hospital, now the chief of neurosurgery. I called his office and left a message with his assistant. Please tell Dr. Chen that Michael Brennan called. He performed surgery on my wife Linda 27 years ago after a traffic accident. She's doing well, and I'd very much like to invite him to a dinner with our family if he's available. I know it's unusual, but I think he'd want to be there. He called back the same day. Mr. Brennan, I remember your wife very clearly, Dr. Chen said. His voice was older now, but still had that same note of focused attention I remembered from the hospital. How is she? She's incredible. She's lived a full life despite the wheelchair. She's been an inspiration to everyone who knows her, which is actually why I'm calling. We're having a family dinner next week, and I'd very much appreciate it if you could join us. There's someone I'd like you to meet. There was a pause. This is certainly an unusual request. I know, but Dr. Chen, you told Linda 27 years ago that her sacrifice was a badge of honor. I think it's time some other people understood that too. Another pause. Then, send me the details. I'll be there. The night of the dinner, Linda wore her favorite dress, dark green silk that brought out her eyes. I told her we were meeting Daniel and Ashley's father. She was nervous, kept fussing with her hair. I want to make a good impression, she said. We've never met him before. You'll be wonderful, I told her. You always are. We arrived at the restaurant first. I'd chosen it carefully, a place known for its accessibility and its quiet, elegant atmosphere. The kind of place where conversations could be heard clearly, where there was nowhere to hide. Dr. Chen arrived next. Linda's face lit up when she saw him. Dr. Chen! Oh my goodness, I haven't seen you in years. Michael, did you know Dr. Chen was joining us? I invited him, I said. I thought it was time we thanked him properly for everything he did. Linda's eyes got misty. You operated on me. You saved my life. You saved your son's life, Dr. Chen corrected gently. I just made sure you survived to see him grow up. How is Daniel? He's wonderful, successful, married. He's actually joining us tonight with his wife. Dr. Chen smiled. I'm looking forward to meeting them. Daniel and Ashley arrived 20 minutes later. Daniel's face went through several expressions when he saw Dr. Chen, confusion followed by what might have been recognition, then settling into polite wariness. Dr. Chen, this is my son Daniel and his wife Ashley, I said. This is Dr. James Chen, the surgeon who operated on your mother after the accident. Ashley had been reaching for her water glass. Her hand stopped mid-reach. Dr. Chen? Hello, Ashley, Dr. Chen said quietly. His face had gone very still. Ashley went pale. Dad? The silence that followed was profound. Linda looked from Ashley to Dr. Chen and back again. Daniel's mouth had fallen open. You're Ashley's father? Linda said. But how? We've never met in person before tonight, Dr. Chen said, still looking at Ashley. His voice was carefully controlled. My daughter and I have been somewhat estranged for the past few years. Disagreements about values, priorities. When she told me she was getting married, I was traveling for a medical conference. By the time I got back, the wedding had already happened. He turned to Linda. My daughter never told me her husband's name, never told me anything about his family. If she had, if I'd known Daniel was your son, I would have reached out long ago. Ashley had found her voice. Dad, what are you doing here? Mr. Brennan invited me, Doctor. Chen said, to thank me for the surgery I performed on his wife 27 years ago. The surgery where Linda Brennan sacrificed her ability to walk so that her 10-year-old son could live. He looked at Daniel then, really looked at him. You're the boy she saved, the one who walked away from that accident with just a broken arm because your mother pushed you out of the path of that truck. Daniel's face had gone red. I didn't know you were Mom's surgeon, Ashley never said. Because she never asked, Dr. Chen said. There was something dangerous in his quiet tone now. In the 2 years you've been married, did she ever ask about your mother's accident? About how she ended up in that wheelchair? I told her about it, Daniel stammered. Did you tell her, Dr. Chen continued, his voice getting harder, that your mother took a 40-mile-per-hour impact from a delivery truck to save your life? Did you tell her that the damage was so severe I wasn't sure she'd survive the surgery? Did you tell her that when she woke up and realized she'd never walk again, the first thing she said was that she'd do it again in a heartbeat to protect you? Dad, please, Ashley whispered. But Dr. Chen wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a moment, then turned the screen toward Daniel and Ashley. This is a photo I took the day Linda was discharged from the hospital. I don't usually do this, but I was so moved by her courage that I asked if I could document it. She agreed because she said she wanted you to understand someday what love looks like. The photo showed Linda in a hospital wheelchair, holding a young Daniel who was crying into her shoulder. Her face was thin and drawn from weeks of recovery, but her expression was peaceful, determined. That's a mother's love, Doctor, Chen said. That's what sacrifice looks like. And you, he turned to Ashley, thought she should be hidden away in an assisted living facility? Ashley made a small, choked sound. Daniel's head snapped toward her. What? I spoke for the first time since Dr. Chen had revealed his connection to Ashley. 3 weeks ago, at your penthouse, I overheard a conversation. Your wife suggested that Linda should be placed in assisted living, and you didn't disagree. Linda's face had gone white. She looked at Daniel, waiting. Mom, Daniel started, but Dr. Chen cut him off. I've spent 40 years as a surgeon. I've seen thousands of patients with spinal cord injuries. Most of them struggle with depression, with hopelessness, with the feeling that their life is over. Your mother is not one of those patients, Daniel. Do you know why? Daniel shook his head mutely. Because she had a reason to live. She had you. Every day of her recovery, every painful physical therapy session, every night when the phantom pains kept her awake, she pushed through it because she had a son who needed her. And this, he gestured around the table, this is how you repay her? By letting your wife suggest she's a burden who should be institutionalized. It's not like that, Ashley tried to say, but her voice was shaking. Isn't it? Dr. Chen looked at his daughter with something like grief in his eyes. I raised you to value compassion, to understand that medicine isn't just about treating bodies but honoring the human spirit. How did you become someone who looks at a woman like Linda Brennan and sees only an inconvenience? The restaurant had gone quiet. Other diners were pretending not to listen, but everyone was obviously hearing every word. Linda reached across the table and put her hand on Dr. Chen's arm. "It's all right," she said softly. "It's not all right," Dr. Chen said, but his voice was gentler now. "You deserved better than this." "I have better," Linda said. She looked at me and her eyes were dry, clear. "I have a husband who's loved me through everything. I have a good life. I have a son who I saved, who grew up safe and healthy, even if he's forgotten why that matters." She turned to Daniel. "You were 10 years old. You were walking to the bus stop with me, talking about your science project. You were worried you wouldn't finish it in time. And then you stepped off the curb without looking, and I saw the truck, and I didn't think. I just acted. Because that's what love is. It's not thinking. It's just doing what needs to be done to protect the people you care about." "Mom," Daniel whispered. Tears were running down his face now. "I don't regret it," Linda continued. "Not for a single second. And I never wanted you to feel guilty about it. But I also never wanted you to forget it. Because it's important, Daniel. It's important that you understand what it means to sacrifice for someone. What it means to put someone else's needs above your own comfort." She looked at Ashley. "I'm sure there are many wonderful things about you. My son loves you, so there must be. But if you think my wheelchair is what defines me, if you think I need to be tucked away somewhere so I don't embarrass you, then you don't know anything about me at all. And I feel sorry for you, because you're missing out on knowing someone pretty remarkable." It was the most I'd ever heard Linda say about her accident, about her wheelchair, about any of it. She'd always just moved forward, never dwelling on the past or demanding recognition for what she'd done. But something in her had shifted. Maybe it was seeing Dr. Chen again. Maybe it was hearing that her son's wife thought she should be hidden away. Whatever it was, Linda Brennan was done being quiet about her own story. I pulled an envelope from my jacket pocket and placed it on the table in front of Daniel. "This is a copy of the trust documents I had drawn up last week. Your inheritance from the sale of my company is now contingent on you demonstrating 5 years of consistent, active involvement in your mother's life. Not money, not occasional phone calls, real presence. Real care, real appreciation for who she is and what she did for you." Daniel stared at the envelope like it might bite him. "If you can't or won't do that," I continued, "the money goes to spinal cord injury research and accessibility advocacy, organizations that actually value people like your mother instead of seeing them as inconveniences." "You can't be serious," Ashley breathed. "I've never been more serious about anything in my life." I looked at my son. "You have a choice to make, Daniel. You can keep living the life you've built, where your mother is someone to be managed from a distance, someone whose wheelchair is an aesthetic problem to be solved. Or you can remember who she is. Remember what she did. Remember that you're alive because she was willing to trade her legs for your life. And then you can decide if that's worth showing up for." Dr. Chen stood. "I think I'll be going. Linda, it was wonderful to see you again. You're every bit as remarkable as I remembered." He looked at Ashley. "I'll call you later. We have a lot to discuss about the kind of person you've become." He shook my hand. "Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Brennan. I'm glad I could be here to remind everyone at this table what real courage looks like." After he left, the 4 of us sat in silence. Ashley was crying quietly. Daniel was staring at his mother, really looking at her, maybe for the first time in years. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I don't know when I became the kind of person who could forget, who could let Ashley say those things, who could think of you as anything other than the woman who saved my life." "Then don't be that person anymore," Linda said simply. "Choose better, be better." We didn't stay for dinner. Linda and I left Daniel and Ashley sitting at that table, left them to figure out what kind of people they wanted to be going forward. In the car, Linda was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You didn't have to do that. The trust, inviting Dr. Chen, any of it." "Yes, I did," I said. "Someone needed to remind our son that you're not someone to be hidden away or managed. You're a hero. His hero. And if he can't see that, then he doesn't deserve a single cent of what we've built." Linda reached over and took my hand. 5 years is a long time. It's a start. And if he can show up for 5 years, really show up, then maybe he'll have learned what it means to honor the sacrifice someone made for him. That was 6 months ago. I won't lie and say Daniel and Ashley had some immediate transformation. They didn't. The first few months were awkward, stilted visits where everyone was too careful, too aware of the stakes. But something has shifted. Daniel comes by every week now. At first, he clearly felt obligated, but lately, there's something different in how he talks to his mother. He asks about her day. He listens to her stories about her garden, her volunteer work teaching kids with disabilities about adaptive sports. He sees her, really sees her, in a way he hasn't in years. Ashley is trying too. It's harder for her, I think. She's still uncomfortable sometimes, still too focused on logistics and accessibility instead of just being present. But she's learning. Last month, she started volunteering with an organization that Dr. Chen recommended, one that provides legal services to people with disabilities facing discrimination. She's finding her own way to understand what her father tried to teach her. Dr. Chen has become a regular dinner guest. He and Linda talk about the advances in spinal cord injury treatment, about the research being funded, about how many more options exist now than existed 27 years ago. He's become part of our extended family in a way none of us expected. As for Linda, she started speaking publicly about her experience. Schools invite her to talk about sacrifice and courage. Disability advocacy groups have her share her story. She's writing a book about life after spinal cord injury, about finding purpose and joy even when your body doesn't work the way it used to. "I'm not just the woman in the wheelchair anymore," she told me last week. We were in the garden, the place she's always loved most. "I'm not just the mother who saved her son. I'm Linda, and I have a story worth telling." She's right. She always has been. It just took almost losing our son to make sure he understood that too. I don't know if Daniel will make it the full 5 years. I hope he will, not because of the money, but because he'll be a better man for it. Because he'll understand that love isn't something you receive passively. It's something you honor, something you protect, something you show up for even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable, or requires you to change your plans. Linda saved his life 27 years ago. Now he has the chance to honor that sacrifice by actually being present for hers. That's not revenge. That's not even really justice. It's just giving my son the opportunity to become the man his mother always believed he could be. The man who would understand that scars and wheelchairs and modified vans aren't marks of weakness or embarrassment. They're proof that someone loved him enough to pay a price he could never fully repay. The least he can do is try.